Have you ever had that moment where you have to pick up at a moment's notice and leave right away, and you've got all of your tutoring sessions scheduled, and you're thinking, should I just call everybody and cancel? But you've already had them pay in advance, and you're thinking, well, they've already paid in advance, so now what am I going to do? Am I going to reschedule or cancel and give them a refund? Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about the power of Google Classroom and why I believe in it so much. The reason I believe in it so much is the fact that I have totally been able to change the way I teach and not worry so much about having events like what happened to me this week happen. So this week, my second grandchild was born. I think he was 12 days early. And my kids don't live in Nebraska where I live. They live in Chicago, and I'm in Chicago right now. And so my daughter was showing signs of distress, and I said, we're going to come. And it happened to be July 4th. And I was like, okay, not a problem. I will just grab my tablet. I'm ready to go. So after I packed everything up and just grabbed the essential items and my husband packed, we headed out the door. And the whole time I thought, wow, am I ever glad that I am organized and I can take my business on the go. There's a little bit of a history here as to why I've been able to do this. Okay. So I wasn't worried. I just logged in as usual because my kids know the routines. My kids know what to expect. They know where to find me. I'm not always sending them a link. Like, here's the link for today's meeting, or here's what you need for today's meeting, because I have it all built into Google Classroom. Now, the history behind this, okay, and this is really important for you guys to understand this. So it was probably, okay, I got to go back in my mind here a little bit. It was probably 5 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I was nearing the end of my time in the classroom, and I was wanting more. They were wanting more from me, but I was wanting more as well. And one of the things that I was really struggling with was this request for, you need to differentiate for all students. And I was like, how am I supposed to differentiate if I've got a whole classroom? You already want me to do small group instruction. What's happening with everybody else while I'm teaching? And so what I decided to do is I decided to go on this personal mission of my own to learn more about using documents that were online, Google Docs, using Google Classroom, and really taking a deep dive into that. And I have to credit Casey Bell, because I was listening to her. I came across her. It was Casey Bell and Matt Miller, and they had a podcast. And I can't remember if that was the year, if that was like 2019, maybe. I'm thinking that's about 2019. And I decided that Matt Miller had a course, and it was all about Google Classroom. I'm like, I'm going to take this course. And I took the course, and then I passed the first Google for Education certification. And then the next year I challenged myself to prepare for the second one. And then I just went through all of the Google training. I just got online. I went through all the Google training, and I took the certification. And then I started to implement little changes in my classroom. Like, let me give you some examples. I'm teaching, this for the day. Everybody's going to get this at their own level in our reading group. But then I would have something for a little bit more challenging for my group that needed a challenge, and something that was a little bit more intervention based or repetitive for the group that needed a little bit more support. And then I could just send that to whoever needed it in my Google Classrooms. I'm like, brilliant. So this is like 2019. So 2020, still using it. Okay, so let's think about the school year, okay? It would have been, I think it was maybe 2018, 2019 school year when I started Google Classroom, and then 2019, 2020, because 2020 was when the pandemic struck, and then everything shut down, and I was already using Google Classroom with my kids. I had trained them. They knew exactly where to go to find what they needed for their independent work time. So if they weren't with a small group, then that's what they were going to go do. They were going to log in. They were going to work on whatever the directions were. Even if it wasn't actually on an iPad or on a computer, the directions were in Google Classroom. And then I might even prepare a short video to go with it, to like a show and tell type thing, or the directions, and that would all be on there for them. And it was so powerful because I was able to kind of move past all of the little micromanaging answering questions, and I would just say, did you look at your Google Classroom instructions? So I wasn't walking away from the small group of students that I was working with. And then there was more collaboration with the students that were doing it in the classroom. So there might be a group of maybe 6 to 10 kids that weren't with a teacher at that time because there was multiple teachers in the room. And then I would be like, okay, go look at the directions in Google Classroom and then check with a friend. And if you still can't answer it, you can come back and see me. And then that really kept a lot of those questions at bay because they'd already practiced the skill. They really had a question about the directions or where to find the next activity. So that was the first way I started to use Google Classroom. Then a couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to go ahead and leave the classroom. I was ready for a change, and I was going to try tutoring. And so if you follow my story anywhere, you've heard that whole story, so we won't get into that. But when I first started to tutor, I was meeting with students in their homes. And so I was creating all these materials, and I've said it before in other videos, and I'm going to say it again. I still felt really connected to teaching. I wasn't necessarily ready to quit teaching. I was just ready to be done with a full classroom. And I knew that if I couldn't become a specialist and work as like an interventionist, that it was really time for me to, come up with my own way to do that. And so I thought, I'm going to just try tutoring and see how it goes. And somebody reached out to me, and I literally started with one student. Okay, it was just great. I went to their house. I was making things. I just felt like I was still in the groove of the classroom. But as that kind of progressed and I got more and more students, I realized that creating things and driving to people's houses and all of that just wasn't going to work for me. So then I transitioned to Google Classroom. So through the use of Google Classroom, then I was doing the same thing. Okay, I was well, not the same thing, but I was, let me back up. I was able to differentiate for each student. That's what I was trying to say. And make it very meaningful for each student by using their Google Classroom. But it wasn't, hey, I'm not with you, just go into Google Classroom and figure it out on your own. It was, hey, here's your lesson. The link is in Google Classroom. Go ahead and open it up on your end in case you can't hear what I'm doing on my tablet or whatever happens to be. And then it just started to work out really, really smoothly. And I think we need to be okay with, maybe there's a few glitches here and there, or maybe I still have to share the link or whatever. That's not a big deal, because these are all things that can be overcome. But this, going back to this moment of I'm just going to pick up and go, I was able to do it because I have all my Google Classrooms are set up. And the really cool thing is, and this is now kind of moving past just this week that I've been in Chicago and not fearing, what am I going to do? It's really knowing that I can go anywhere in the world, if as long as I have a device, and I can even teach off my phone, which I'm recording this on my phone right now, okay? So I can literally go anywhere in the world and I can teach from my digital device and know that my students have exactly what they need. I'm not fearful that, I'm not gonna have what I need, because it's all there. And by moving from paper and pen to documents that are shared, slides that are shared, videos that are shared, links that are shared, I now have this amazing digital library for each one of my students that works really well. And I don't just have to have it for one student, okay? So I could do a topic. So I'm not going to give an example of something that I've done, but I'm going to give an example of something that you could do, okay? Because I think this is really important. I want to talk about your tutoring business right now. Let's say you're a math teacher, okay? Your math instructor, and you always are looking for your assessments. You're like, oh man, I just don't even know where they're at on my computer. Have you thought about making a Google Classroom just for your math assessments? That way, when you log in, it's all there. Let's say you're a music teacher and you're like, oh man, I just hate making all of these practice scales for my students. And I'm always recreating these practice scales for my students. How about if you have the practice scales in a Google Classroom and you're just like, all right, remember they're here. And then either you're sharing the link or they already have their Google Classroom open and then they're just opening it. Let's say you're an art teacher and you want to do a study of each one of the artists. Well, why not create a Google Classroom that has, each one of the artists is either listed or it's just famous artists, and you've got everything that's already in there. These are ways that we can use it in creative and useful ways that it's going to really make it a lot easier for us to teach online. Now, just because I'm talking to online tutors doesn't mean that you can't be an in-person tutor and still use it. You could totally have everything that you need for either one student or all of your students in a Google Classroom. You can share your documents, you can share your videos, you can even show your videos while you've got your device open, and it's all going to be right there. And so I really want to encourage you to think about the amazing ways that you can teach on the go. It really does not need to be the fact that, I can't leave because my power, I don't want to take my cord, or I might lose my cord, or my cord's broken or something like that. In my case, I can't take my laptop because my screen is broken, so I can't even close it. So I take a tablet or my phone. Or maybe you're going to stay in a hotel and you're like, I don't know if I really want to log into a business computer and do this. You can. Even if they don't have a camera and they don't have a microphone on it, you can still pull up your Google Classroom. You can still meet your student on there. You just run the meeting from your phone. So it's like using two devices. So this is just absolutely an amazing and creative way to teach. Now, there are other platforms out there that are just as great. There are, is it Thinkific and Schoology and whatever else happens to be there out there. I don't even know if Schoology is still a thing anymore, but, or you could just be prepared and just show up with your pen and paper and use Zoom. That's completely fine. But what I'm trying to say is that this is how I do it. Okay, and it works out really, really well. And I leave my house knowing in full confidence, even if I just go to the major metropolitan city of Omaha or Lincoln and I'm out shopping for the day, and I'm like, I have this appointment at 3:00, and I'm with my friend Linda. Hi, Linda. And I say, Linda, I need a half hour. She's like, okay, I'm going to go over here to Old Navy and shop. I'm like, great. I'm going to sit in your car or my car, and I'm going to teach this lesson, and I'll meet you at the coffee shop in a half hour. So it might maybe stop me for a half hour, 45 minutes or an hour, but it doesn't stop me from moving forward with my life. And I think that's the amazing thing. I mean, if you were in a classroom, would you be able to go shopping and say, I need a half hour or an hour to go teach this lesson? Absolutely not. You would not be able to do it. But because I am using the technology that's already in existence, and Google has wonderful products, and I'm very versed in them, I have total confidence that I can do it. And I want to tell you that you can too. So if you're just doing only in person, or if you're thinking, I really want to use more technology in my in-person visits, or maybe you're in person and you're wanting to transition to online, the Tech Hub for Tutors can totally help you, and I want to invite you to it. So inside of the description, you'll see the link for the invitation. You're welcome to go and check it out. It is a paid membership, okay? So I'm going to make that very, very clear. And I really don't want to state the price right now because I want this video to kind of just be out there so that you can hear the story. And if I would decide to increase or decrease the price, hopefully decrease, but if I would decide to make any of those changes, then I would have to redo the video. And I think this has been a pretty good conversation. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for liking, subscribing, but most importantly for leaving me a comment. Leave a question. Leave a question about something that you really want the answer to. Or tell me, how are you using Google Classroom in your situation? Or is there something that you're like, maybe you have a really great tip or trick that you want to share with everybody? So leave that in the comments. I want to thank you for joining me today. And as usual, make it a great day and keep the learning going.